I'm the dad of two boys. In today's day and age with the internet and devices and all the things, how do you appropriately have the sex talk and cover all of that? And what's an appropriate way to normalize discussions about relationships and intimacy?
What is going on? This is John with the Dr. John Delony Show. Literally the greatest mental health and marriage and parenting podcast ever exists. Ever. We talk about whatever's going on in your life, mental health challenges that you're struggling with or that your family members are struggling with, how to be a better parent, how to be a better spouse, or how to figure out what in the world's going on in your relationship. Whatever's going on in your world, I'm going to walk alongside you and we're going to figure it out. I may not know the answers, but I promise I'll tell you the truth, and I might refer you out and tell you to go talk to somebody else, but we will figure this thing out. If you want to be on this show, go to johndelony.com/ask, ASK, on the internet, and just fill out the form, and it goes to Kelly and Jenna. And actually, if you fill it out today, Jenna will not be paying attention because this is the week of the Taylor Swift shows, both of them. Oh, my gosh.
I've already got my merch on. I'm ready.
How do you pre-buy merch? That's the most millennial thing I've ever heard.
I mean, they had a whole truck set up. I just had Chris went down for me. He said, text me, he said, hey, what you want? And I said, I know exactly what I want. And he got it.
You told him what you wanted, what you really, really wanted?
I did. And I really, really got it.
That's
wearing it today.
That's a husband right there.
That is not. No. He's not my husband.
What's your husband's name?
Reed. This is Chris. Chris Wright.
Oh, your boss.
Yeah. I told him the merch truck was there, and he said, I'm going to go down after work. I told him I couldn't go. And so he said...
He's a massive T-Swift fan.
This is one of the guys from your band.
He's in Dub Button.
Let's be very clear about that.
I did not know he was a Swiftie.
Oh, he's a full-on Swiftie. He's going Sunday night.
We may have to reshuffle
intervention
our band lineup.
For sure.
Yeah, we need to circle the wagons on this guy. Wow. Kelly, though, will be there to answer your phone call because she does not believe in joy or concerts. So that'll be great. That'll be good. Or happiness. So she will be willing to take your emails. Hey, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button or the like button. And Ben, I like T-Swift too. I can't lie, man. She's good, man.
That was strong of you to say that.
This is a show about vulnerability and telling the truth. She's good, man. She's real good.
She is.
It's annoying how good she is, especially when I'm middling at my job. All right, let's go to Jason in Colorado Springs. What's up, brother Jason?
Oh, just partying over here.
Yes, me too. It's kind of early to be
dad.
It's kind of early to be partying in Colorado Springs, but that's all good. So what's up, dude?
Yeah, that's all right. Well, I wanted to get your opinion. I'm the dad of two boys. One just turned 13. And so this is kind of like a two-parter. I'm kind of wondering, in today's day and age with the internet and devices and all the things, how do you appropriately have the sex talk and cover all of that? Ooh. And kind of tagging on to that, what's an appropriate way to normalize discussions about relationships and intimacy?
It's a great question, man. Can I beat you up, but not because I don't like you, but just because it will send a message to all the other parents? Is that cool?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm sure I'm not the only one thinking these things.
No,
right?
I know you're not. So I'm really grateful that you called. So I think to start out, number one, 13 is way too late, probably by 7 or 8 years, if not more. Okay. I think the days. Let's just be honest. The sex talk as a singular event is an utter failure. It doesn't work. It never has worked. It didn't work for you and me. It didn't work for anyone we know. Nobody walked out of the sex talk and they're like, oh, hell yeah. Now I know how to do this and my dad's awesome and he'll always be a safe place to go talk about girls. I mean, like, that has never happened in human history, ever. It has just been like, wow, I will never talk to them about anything ever again because all of my body hurts after that call, right? You know what I'm saying? So,
and honestly, that's part of my second part of that question is because when I got that talk, my dad wouldn't even do it. My grandpa had a couple gin and tonics and asked me if I knew how to put on a condom. I didn't want to talk about any of that with anyone ever again.
That's one of the best sex talks I've ever heard right there. That's
yeah, right.
That's
and
incredible.
I mean, so I had it all figured out and, but I just want something better for these kids, you know?
Yeah. So I think ultimately, the sex talk, that idea comes from a faulty notion. And it's about sex. It's about anger and rage. It even bleeds over into the conversation about suicide. If we bring it up, that it's going to suddenly give our kids insights into something that they didn't know exists. And that's not true, because their bodies exist. And so what our silence does, or when we turn beet red in our face, and we're like, or we get all nervous, or when a kid asks us something innocent when they're 6 or 9 or 10 or 4, and our eyes start darting around the room looking for our spouse or whatever, they absorb all of that. And so the greatest thing parents can do is just to norm sex, to norm bodies, because it should be happening inside their house, right? So it's what's going to change is the details and degrees, right? I am never going to go into gruesome detail about me and my wife. Like into, you know what I mean? That's not appropriate. My son will be in more therapy than he's already going to be in. But the other day, my daughter's 7, and dude, let me tell you the rules of my house. Number 1, every conversation is on the table, 100% all the time. There is nothing in our house that we won't talk about or discuss. And so that's just an ethos, right? And that can be about religion, that can be about political topics, that can be about anything. We also don't gossip. So we don't talk crap about other people. So my kids know that it's just not a free-for-all. And the rule that my wife and I have is any question that gets asked, whoever gets asked answers it. So there's not a big production. There's not a big like confetti falling from the sky and the big talk, right? What it is like the other day, I'm literally just I'm doing something in the kitchen, and my daughter's sitting there at the counter. She's 7, and she just says, "Hey, Dad, I just don't understand this." And I was like, what do you don't understand, baby? Dude, it could have been, I don't understand how wolf dragons create fire. I mean, it could have been any number of things coming out of her mouth. And she said, "I just don't understand how your part gets into mommy to make me." And I just started laughing. I was like, I guess we're doing this right now. Right? And my wife walks by, and she has a huge grin on her face because she knows the rules. She walks behind my daughter and just keeps on walking. It's not a weird thing in our house. And it ended with, "Yes, we are naked." And my daughter goes, "Oh no." But it wasn't there was nothing weird about it. You see what I'm saying? Last night when I was carrying my daughter to bed and we were hanging out in my room, I was carrying her to bed, and I said, "Hey, when we walk by, I want you to kick Mom." Like, we were just being silly. And she goes, "No." And I put her foot by my wife's shoulder, and my wife leaned over and kissed her on the top of the foot. And I whispered to my daughter, "I will never kiss her again." And my daughter starts dying laughing, right? So that's just an ethos in our house. Now, we are silly and goofy, and not every family's like that, and that's okay. But I think the greatest conversation is asking questions. Constantly asking questions, constantly you and your wife talking about it, not in a gruesome or gross way or making light of it, but just the kids are going to absorb what's okay to talk about and what's not okay to talk about, okay? The second thing is my parents, your parents, they got to play defense. They got to just try to keep Playboys out of the house, right? They got to try to keep like HBO out of the house. Those days are long gone. They're over. And so I don't allow my kids to have phones, and I know I'm way in the minority on that, and I'm 100% confident, not even a shadow of a doubt in my life, that the arc of the next 10 to 15 years that I'll be proven correct on that deal. But I just don't allow it. And then when your kids get older and you decide to hand them a phone, you have to know I'm handing them over to every Playboy ever in the human history is right on their phone. Every pornography app, every video ever recorded is on that phone. And please don't make videos of your own. Please don't ask people for photos of your own, because now you're trafficking child porn. So I think you have those conversations very, very directly. But listen, those conversations have to be set up early, right? So I have a hard conversation with my son at 12 because his stupid school just hands him Chromebooks. And I tell him about, hey, if you put something in an email to your friends, it will be there for eternity. And I told him about a joke that I thought was really funny when I was a kid and how utterly disgusting and offensive it is now that I know better. And so I went first, leading with, here's what I've done wrong. Thank God it's not in writing. And so I start the conversation there so that in 3 or 4 years, I can tell them, hey, somebody's going to send you a picture of them without a shirt on. Please delete that immediately and let me know. Let your mom know. And so I'm trying to set up that so that when I say, hey, we need to have a talk, it's not, his body doesn't go into fight or flight. He just knows Dad has these kind of talks with me because we're open in the house. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It does. And I will say those are the kind of talks we have had because we did give him a device. And, we laid those out pretty frankly.
Okay.
Like
if you've got a 13-year-old with a device, you better have 100% access to every keystroke on that thing.
Absolutely.
And know that they can get around it because they're smart, right? And the same way you and I got around all of our parents' rules. But man, I mean, like there's some apps out there that every text he gets, you get. Every website he goes to, you go. I would have every nook and cranny of that thing covered. And again, it's because we're handing a device to a child that can ruin their professional life.
Mm-hmm.
That's such an extraordinary responsibility that we're putting in their hands. They can send the wrong text. They can ask, and they're 15. Of course they're going to ask somebody to send a picture. They're 15. I'm not going to blame a kid for wanting to see somebody of the opposite sex naked. They're 16. They're 19. I would never, that's not on them. That's on us. We're adults, right? And so, I would have those conversations regularly. And I would just make it a part of life and conversation.
Yeah.
What in your house, where does it get awkward?
It gets awkward in him getting him engaged in any of those conversations. And I understand it because this kid is a carbon copy of me. I know what's going through his brain, right? Because he's just me, just younger. And he's gone from the last couple of years, from like a pudgy short kid to all of a sudden just exploded into, a full teenager in a man-sized body, I know what's going through his brain, and he doesn't want to talk about any of it. He won't even, we can go to a school function. He gets plenty of smiles from the girls and stuff. And if we try to even talk about that, he just does not want to talk about it one bit.
Right. So I think going first and hearing you talk about it. So maybe the next time your wife walks through, quietly whisper to him, my God, she's beautiful. And it could never be gratuitous and never be gross and never be like, oh man, I can't wait till, no, that's inappropriate for parents and kids. But letting him hear you honor how beautiful your wife is.
Yeah.
Asking him, hey, I'm going to do something really nice for her. Like, what do you think she would be into? And what you're doing is you're teaching him to keep his eyes open, right? So it's a broader conversation than just doing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a broader conversation than just like bras and under. The whole thing is a broader conversation and keeping your eyes open and what does dignity, what does respect look like, all those things. Most of the time, the awkwardness that kids absorb and experience is reflected somehow in their parents.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you, I cannot describe to you the millions and millions and millions of moms and dads who see each other naked and have sex and have babies and cannot talk about sex between the two of them. Right. They can't talk about what they're into, what they want to try, what they are awkward about, and it just permeates the house. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's something to be said for couples. If you're going to raise kids, y'all have to be able to talk about sex. Because if y'all can't talk about it, God help your poor kids.
Right.
And they just grow. It's kind of like if you have one in-law who's a little bit out to lunch, right? And if you bring it up, like one of y'all gets really touchy about it, and just the kids just learn, don't talk about granddad because, whoa, mom gets fired up.
Yeah.
It's very similar with sex. If you can't talk about it behind closed doors, your kids are they're going to know it's not okay.
Okay.
Are there things that you and your wife can't talk about, or that are weird or awkward or make you blush?
I not really, but also not. We talk about pretty much anything, but behind closed doors, right? Like we're not talking about. There's a lot of things that her and I just talk about together privately.
Okay.
Not.
And it should be that way. It should be that way. You shouldn't be like, "Hey, honey, you want to try this?" Like at the dinner table. No, don't do that.
Right. But I mean, probably the whole, the full extent of any of those conversations happens just between the two of us, and never in front of the kids.
There you go. So I think there's something about being intentional about holding your wife's hand, being intentional about hugging every morning, being intentional about kissing your wife in front of your kids.
Yeah.
Letting your kids see that you are a sexual being without being pervy McGee.
Yeah.
Right. And I know my son's old enough now that his friends listen to the show sometimes and give him crap about it. So I don't want to embarrass him, but I don't really give him an option. Like I'll tell him, "Hey, we're going to talk about this." Or "I need the update, man." He's like, "Dad, I don't." I think, "Nope, I need the update, man." And so we're pretty open about it. It. And I also want him to have other men in his life that, I'm his dad. I know it's always going to be weird. But I want him to have men in his life that he can talk to also. So whether that's a coach, whether that's one of his buddies' dads, whether that's a minister or somebody that he trusts from local church, whatever that is, that he's got people in his life that he can talk to. And I'm that for several of my buddies' kids. They can call Uncle John and ask him all kind of weird stuff, and they know I'll be able to answer them, and I'm not going to turn all beet red. And I'll ask them, for help with finance or help with, if my kid wants to go to trade school or something, I'll call, John King. So anyway, all that to say is this: don't make it this singular event. And by the way, I do believe in events for 13-year-olds. I think that's an important thing, but it's a total event. Like you're becoming a man now, you're becoming a woman now, like you are transitioning. I think that whole thing is incredible, but that can't be the sex talk with a period at the end of it. Talking about sex, talking about body parts, talking about nothing is wrong with your body. Not one thing is gross about your body. Not one thing you should be ashamed of about your body. Some things are private. Some things are not for the world. And there's some great books about that, some great children's books that talk about private parts and like behind bathing suit parts, things like that. It's great, man. But those need to be constant conversations that start really, really young and just are integrated into the household so that kids never feel ashamed of themselves and they never think that sex is some it's just not some mysterious, crazy thing. It's just this amazing, rad, awesome thing, especially inside of a context. And it's awesome. So good for you for being a great dad, man. Keep loving your kid and just start the regular conversation. And when he doesn't want to be a part of it, he's 13. Of course, he doesn't want to be a part of it. It's your job to bridge that gap and to let him know that he's safe and it's comfortable and it's all good. And that you think his mom is beautiful too. We'll be right back. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Folks, take a minute to think about how much time you spend on yourself. It's easy to get caught up in what people need from you and want from you and never think about what you need. And then you end up too stretched out, burned out, all of the madness of our current world resting on your shoulders. Look, sometimes I put my head down to work and then realize I haven't had a meaningful conversation with my wife and kids all day. I get focused on what I'm doing and I'm running, and I don't know how to come back. And therapy is a great way to learn new skills that make you the best version of yourself. They help you set boundaries and still have energy left to help others without leaving yourself behind. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's totally online to fit into your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So find more balance, find wellness with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Delony today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Delony. All right, we are back. Let's go out to Nicole in Orlando. What's up, Nicole?
Hey, Dr. John.
What up?
Not much. How you doing?
Partying. You?
I'm trying not to freak out because I usually only talk to you like in my head, and now I'm actually talking to you now, like for real.
Promise, I'm way smarter in your head than I am in real life. Way smarter.
Yeah, that's why it usually works.
What's up?
Yeah, so I was calling because I'm really struggling on making a decision about if I should stay in my marriage just for my son.
No.
You know,
I don't even know what the answer is. But no. Why do you want to leave your marriage? Actually, the way you just asked that question, why do you need to leave your marriage?
Well, so we got married pretty much just because. Well, we definitely got married just because I was pregnant. He comes from a, religious background where it was like either, break up and not be together or get married. So we got married, which, we were dating for a while, but I don't think I would have ever married him. It wasn't because of that.
Okay, but you did. So here you are.
Yeah.
So we've got all this. We've got all this background stuff. It just is what it is. Y'all are here now. Why isn't it not working now?
Well, the first time it wasn't working was just because, we kind of decided that we were going to call it, getting to know each other better, being married. We were both really unhappy. He doesn't celebrate holidays because of his religion. And, that was very stressful. But when pandemic happened, I never wound up actually leaving and, essentially got together. And then as I was really kind of trying, I found out that he was sleeping with the neighbor. So, it broke my heart. And when I kind of got over the brokenheartedness about it, then I was obviously angry. And, I asked myself the first time we were deciding to split up, I was okay with it. I don't know if it's because my son was more a baby, couldn't even talk yet. Now he's 5. And I just feel like I can't picture a single day going by where I don't wake up and he's there. Can
I just be real direct with you, Nicole?
Of course.
This isn't about your son, man. I get that you can't imagine your life with for a second. I get that too, 100%. I am unnerved by how much I love being around my kids. Okay, almost I have to, right? It's strange for me. I get that, but this isn't about your kid, and I don't want you to make decisions right now through that lens, because you're going to end up, if you leave. And some of the data tells me that your net worth will go down. Your life will get harder for a season, especially. That if you don't get, I don't want you to blame a 5-year-old for that. Or if you stay, I don't want him to be the reason that you're miserable and unhappy. And that's the position you've placed this 5-year-old in. So I know you want to see him every day. You love him more than life itself. All that is incredible. You have to make an adult decision about an adult relationship. And he can't be the glasses that you are wearing to make that decision.
I mean, I've been, thinking about it for so long, and it's just I totally understand what you're saying, but there's other people that I see that do this all the time, and I feel like for some reason, I can't handle it. It's all about my son. I feel like I would put up with basically a marriage to just, sorry, excuse my language, to just be with him all the time.
Listen, if you do that, that's an incredibly selfish thing, because you are teaching him, you're using him as a pacifier. You're using him for you to feel better. And in the process, you're using him like a blanket. And in the process, you're teaching him this is what love looks like. This is what women deserve. This is what dads do. This is what husbands do. And you're just putting cinder blocks in his backpack that he's going to have to spend his whole life unwinding.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was afraid of.
It is. If your husband cheats on you with your neighbor and you don't want to be married to him anymore, don't be married to him anymore. But be an adult and you make an adult decision and live with the consequences of that decision because you've already made the decision to get married to the guy. And you can't blame anybody. You can't blame his religion. You chose that. And if you choose to stay with somebody who cheated on you, great. Y'all figure it out. That happens all the time. And people rebuild their relationship completely anew. And they come up with something that was stronger and more magnificent. I don't want to say more magnificent like good thing this happened, but man, it recontextualizes what I'm worth and what I value and what I will and won't put up with. It just changes everything. And you get to pick that. But you're choosing misery in a relationship right now. And you're making it your 5-year-old's fault. And I just don't think that's fair to him.
Yeah.
What makes you think that your husband cheats on you? What makes you think that you're going to have to split custody?
Well, I know that the law in Florida is it's a 50-50. It's a 50-50 state. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Will he fight you for custody?
No, he wouldn't fight me. I think he would be pretty agreeable to being, 50-50. It's just, that doesn't feel good enough to me. In a perfect world, if I could just have him and go, I would have done that. But I know I have to share. So.
Have you asked your husband that?
Yeah.
And he said, no way?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're both super in love with him.
So what keeps you and your husband from going away for a weekend and figuring this thing out?
I mean, I'm not totally sure on that. The reasons why we kind of decided to not be together in the first place, obviously like holidays are kind of a big deal. We don't really have the same kind of beliefs.
Is your husband willing to lose his marriage over these things like holidays and stuff?
I don't know.
Because here's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like you got two people who are kind of dug in, but it's almost like World War I. Like they're entrenched in a position and the people fighting don't even really know what we're fighting. And you start creating stories about the person on the other side that you're fighting, not realizing that y'all are way more similar than you are apart. Usually, not always, usually in this kind of situation, one of y'all is desperate for the other person to flip the lights on and turn the music off and say, what are we doing? Because if there was no smoke left in this relationship at all, not one spark, I think you would have left. Are you able to tell me this thing is done, dead, and over? Or if he was to sit down with you and say, hey, I love you. Man, it's been a rocky go. We got in a rocket ship that we didn't even know what we were doing. But here we are. I want to make this thing work. Would you be all in or would you be like, nah, too bad. You slept with a neighbor? And there's no judgment. There's no judgment either way.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to build a context here.
Yeah. I could see myself being all in, and that's kind of where I find myself now is like, do I make that decision to be all in or not to be all in? And, my top of my list is my son. So, if there's any risk of losing him, then I feel like I should stay. But then if I'm only staying because of him, then, it's a lot harder to think of why I would stay.
I want you to do some soul searching, not about your son. You know where you stand there. But it feels like you got hurt bad and you are scared to get hurt ever again. And so you're going to go to the beach like wrapped up in a huge blanket so you can get no sun on you because one time you got burned. And what you're going to do in the process is miss the entire trip to the beach. You're going to miss your whole life.
Yeah.
The only way your marriage works moving forward is if you're willing to get hurt again. And I hate that about relationships, but it's just the truth. All relationships are a risk, 100% of them.
Mm-hmm.
The one way you can mitigate that risk is you take the lead. And I think your whole life you have been just being led around by the nose. Fair?
Yeah.
Doing what everybody else in your life wanted you to do. And I'd love you to take the lead and take this guy out if you're in. And now I'm pushing you one way because that's the way I feel like we're going on the phone. I could be way out to lunch. So don't just do this because I'm saying to, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I'd love to see you take him out somewhere and get a babysitter and look at him and say, I'm not done with this thing. Everything's got to change. All of it. Me, you, what I'll accept, boundaries, all of it. But let's put it on the table. And either we're going to both be all in or we both got to figure out what being out means. But this halfway thing is killing you. It's killing your husband and it's destroying your son.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah. I've never really thought about, I've thought about having a conversation with him, but I never really thought about actually telling him what I want for the future, if that's even possible.
Lay it out there. Lay it out there. Because the worst he can say is no, and then you get your answer.
Yeah.
And then you got to grieve your marriage, and you got to figure out what divorce looks like and all the hell that is. But there is a chance, he says, oh my God, thank God. And I want you to have written down, spend some time. You may need to go see a counselor. Spend some time or get with a couple of your friends that you trust deeply. Here's what I need moving forward. And that can be everything from you got to get off your stupid phone to I'm going to have to go through a rebuilding season where I'm going to learn to trust you again because you were banging the neighbor while I was trying to keep our house together, right? I want you to lay down all these things that you need, these things that you want, and then he's going to have his list too. And you've probably been pretty cold the last few years. Fair?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. So let's figure out what this thing's going to look like. Lay all these things out and say, can you live with this? Can I live with this? And it may be a disaster, but at least you have an answer. At least you're not living halfway, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because everybody's getting hurt this way. Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely.
Will you do me a huge favor? Will you let me know how that conversation goes? And let me tell you this, if you show up to this conversation and just start throwing grenades, he's got to fight you back. Go to that conversation and say, here's what I need. And here's what I want. I want to go all in. All in. Or if you spend some time thinking about this, writing your needs down, and you realize, no, I'm done. I'm done. Then take him out and say, I'm done. And we need to figure out what this is going to look like. And I'd love to see if you'll be okay with weekends instead of weekday, whatever. But we can figure something out that works for both of you. But let's stop living halfway. Either go all in and risk getting hurt again. I'll go ahead and say it. He'll hurt you again. He'll say something stupid. He'll do something dumb. You'll hurt him. You'll say something stupid. You'll do something dumb. That's marriage. And then it's going to be about, are we willing to repair? Are we willing to go back into the cycle again? Whew. Let me know how this goes. I actually have really high hopes for y'all. It's going to take somebody being a grown-up. Maybe that can be you. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, and here we go again. It's Facts Are Your Friends. Let's do it. Oh, jeez. All right, today we are talking about how to find a therapist. How to find a therapist. We've talked about this on the show before, and it continues to be one of the most common questions we get. How do I find a counselor? How to find a therapist? How to find a social worker? What's the difference? All that kind of stuff, okay? So we're going to talk about how to find the right therapist. I'm going to give you a couple of bullet points here that you can follow. Pull out a pen and a paper, write this stuff down. So here we go. Number one, I want to define what they are and what they are not, okay? So when you think of mental health professional, you can start with your local doctor. And your regular doctor, your primary care physician is going to get a couple of classes on mental health stuff, on psychiatric stuff. They're not going to usually get classes on how to deal with trauma. In fact, almost never. On how to sit with somebody over a long period of time. I will tell you the first time I went to go get help, I went and met with a medical doctor, but he was a buddy, so I had a relationship with him. And remember the word relationship because that's going to be really important. A psychiatrist is a medical doctor. Okay, that's a medical doctor who goes to med school and then goes on to specialize in psychiatric care, mental health issues. I'm sad to say that most psychiatry nowadays is entirely medicine-based. It's entirely biological. Very few classes, if any, on therapy, on sitting with somebody. It's all moved to managed care, get you in, hear your X number of symptoms, give you a diagnosis out of the ICD-10 codes or out of the DSM, and then get you on, get you meds, and get you out of here, okay? Psychiatry, I think, can be used great as an adjunct to counseling care. And most of the research suggests that you need to have, that medicine works in conjunction with counseling, some sort of talk therapy or some sort of action therapy. But that's where some people start. Okay, some people start there. A psychologist is the next rung, if you will, in the hierarchy. So if you look at mental health professionals, there's a hierarchy there, whether we want there to be one or not. And it's psychiatrists, which are medical doctors. And then there's a psychologist. Psychologists go to get a graduate degree. You got to have a PhD or a PsyD to be called a clinical psychologist. And they are trained usually from research, more research-based. They've got to do research. They have to do studies. They're going to be more clinical in their approach, more typologies. And again, I'm speaking broadly and generally. Beneath that, depending on which state you are in, it might be counselor, it might be a marriage and family therapist, it might be a social worker, licensed clinical social worker. And there's social workers that are licensed to sit with people. They can do diagnosis. They can refer you out to psychiatrists. And then there's social workers that are to help you navigate complex systems like a medical system or the legal system or whatever. So I'm talking about licensed clinical social workers. At the end of the day, the research tells me that the most important thing is not the modality, not the degree of a licensed mental health professional. It's the rapport between the patient, the client, and the mental health professional. How you feel interacting with this person. Now, I was thinking about this when I was writing these notes out for this. Two of the most amazing therapists that I refer to a lot, whose wisdom guides a lot of what I do, are Esther Perel and Terrence Real. Neither of them have PhDs. Neither of them are Dr. Perel or Dr. Real. And they're amazing. My therapist, the person I go to, I know they don't have a PhD. I know they're not a doctor so-and-so. And I don't know what their clinical licensure is in. I actually don't know. I know they're one of the most respected and extraordinary counselors in the United States. And I was really fortunate that she would take me on. But I don't even know what her clinical licensure is. That's how little I care about that kind of crap. Also, Gabor Mate, who you hear me talk about a lot, he's a medical doctor. Not a psychiatrist, but a medical doctor. So all that to say is, and I have 2 PhDs and I'm seeing somebody who's not a PhD. All that I want you to hear me say, I don't care. It's about when you meet with this person, do you click? And here's how I know if I click. Can I or will I tell this person the truth? Most of us have an innate sense that this person in front of us is not safe or they are safe. Doesn't mean it's not going to be uncomfortable. It's not going to be weird. But can I tell them the truth? Will I tell them the truth? If you sit down in front of somebody and your guard immediately goes up, you're wasting your time, you're wasting their time, you're wasting your money. Because if you're not going to tell the truth, then they can't help you. It's like going to the doctor and not telling them that your foot is really, really hurting and instead telling them you got a headache. It's not going to help. They're never going to get you the x-rays that you need to get your care, okay? So the most important thing is the relationship with your therapist. Can you tell the truth? If you need meds, if you think you need meds, you can start anywhere with any of these folks, and they will let you know, we've tried some things for a few weeks. I think it's best to refer you out to your doctor or to a psychiatrist, and they will have lists of people they can refer you out to, okay? So, and one more quick side note here. Life coaches. Here's my thought on life coaches. I actually have one of those too. And I know that that's a lot. I've got a life coach and having a therapist. I don't go to my life coach, the person I sit with. His name's Justin McRoberts. He's amazing. I don't go to him with childhood traumas. I don't go to him with really deep structural marriage issues when my wife and I are struggling. I don't go to him with like parenting challenges. I go to him when I have a specific problem that I need to solve that I'm struggling with, like my calendar, like feeling sensitive all the time when people give me feedback at work, like when I've got 4 or 5 people at work all telling me the same thing, but I think I'm right. He provides a mirror for me and is able to say things more directly often than a counselor will. It's what a coach is. Coaches give you advice, not always, but more so than a therapist will. I am technically not licensed. I intentionally did not get licensed in the state of Tennessee because I didn't want to spend my whole career fighting grenades that people are throwing for licensure. So life coaches can get certified in their particular thing, but not all of them have licenses and stuff. It's great. I take specific issues like boundaries, work challenges, etc. for life coaching. So if you're working through like a particular issue, call a life coach, man. It's easier to get in sometimes. They can be less expensive sometimes, depending on who you call. Sometimes they can be extraordinarily expensive. But I don't have a problem at all. In fact, I employ one. And if you want to check out Justin McRoberts, he's the guy that I work with, and he's amazing. He's out of California, and we do it virtually, and it's awesome. All right, so how to find the right therapist. All right, number one, I hate that I have to start here, but this is the world we're in right now. I hate that I have to start here. Figure out your finances. Usually it's going to be between $75 and $250 an hour. Sometimes a little bit less if they're on a sliding scale, sometimes more. Sliding scale simply means you're a teacher, you make $42,000 a year, and they are going to slide their rates down and make you will pay less than somebody who makes $100,000 a year, might have to pay full freight. Great. I'm 100% on board with sliding scale stuff. Okay. Psychiatrists can be considerably more expensive, $400 or $500 an hour. Sometimes testing is thousands of dollars. It just depends on what you need. If you've got cash pay, many therapists have moved to cash pay, usually because their books are full. They don't have to deal with insurance. They can just say, hey, I cost $150 an hour. People write them a check and they'll move on. If you can afford to do that, great. That's where I would start. One side note, you can pay with cash and you can say, like I do with my counselors, I do not want any diagnosis in any records. So they don't. And I'm paying with cash. If you have insurance, if you are going through your insurance, often insurance will require a diagnosis to reimburse the therapist. So they have to put something down. So if you got cash pay, start there. If you need to run it through your insurance, great. My wife has done that. No big deal at all. No big deal at all. Run it through your insurance, and you can often find a list of practitioners in your area. Okay. Now, finding practitioners is hard. There is a shortage nationwide. It just is. That's not an excuse to give up if you need to talk to somebody. Okay. It's not an excuse. You need to know how much things will cost before you go. And by the way, no therapist should be upselling you things or giving you packages on things, or that should never happen. Okay. That should never, ever happen. And a therapist's job should be to work themselves out of a job with you. Their job is not to counsel you for eternity. Their job is to help you in the healing process, to walk alongside you. Okay. If you are struggling to find somebody, a group, and I know they sponsor the show, so there you go. But BetterHelp has been extraordinary to folks who were peripheral to the Nashville shooting. That's who I referred them to, got them a code for BetterHelp. Okay. So I have full trust there. I refer people that I care about and love to BetterHelp. No problem at all. And their promise is they will see you within 24, 48 hours. Okay. Dealing with deep trauma, online therapy, or talking on the phone therapy might not be the best long-term, but man, it's a great place to get you going. Okay. So number 2, after you've dealt with the finances, what you can afford, how you can work that thing, have an idea as to what you want to talk about. Have some sort of direction. Okay. I'm ready to stop being so angry. I want to be a more present mom. I want to be a better dad than my dad. I don't even know where to start. I just keep crying all the time. Everyone around me is telling me that I'm depressed. They keep asking me if I'm depressed. I don't think I am, but it's time for me to talk to somebody, get a third party who's neutral in this deal. Okay. more than likely you're going to be wrong in what you think is going on. I can't tell you the number of times I've gone in and been like, hey, I need to talk about X. And within an hour, we are not talking about X. We are talking about Y. X is simply a symptom of Y and A, B, and C, and D, and E, and F, and G, right? But have some sort of direction. If you plop down on the couch and you look at the therapist and say, fix me, it's not going to work. Good therapists can work with that because they're good. But man, it really helps to sit down and say, I'm ready to stop hurting. I am in the last stages of my life and I want to have as much joy as possible. I just lost somebody that was my heartbeat and I can't breathe. Can you help me with the grief? And so have some sort of direction there, okay? And I want to reiterate this. You got to tell the truth. You got to tell the truth. They teach us in Counseling 101 classes, your clients will lie to you. Your clients will lie to you. Don't lie. If you're going to go and you're going to pay the money, tell the truth. I slept with this many people. I hooked up with my boss's secretary and it's going to blow my marriage up. I hit my kid. Go tell the truth, okay? All right, number 3. Where should you look? Okay. Number 1, check the internet in your local area. That's the easiest way, okay? And there are waiting lists all over the country. Get on them. Get on the waiting list. Just like your barber who books 4 months out or 3 months out, whatever, get on the waiting list. You never know when you're going to get a call, okay? So number 1, get on a waiting list. If 4 or 5 or 6 people are like, dude, you got to go see Jenna. You got to go see Jenna. You got to go see Jenna. And you call Jenna and says, hey, I'm not taking any clients now, but I got a waiting list. Get on it. Go ahead and get on it. Why not? Right? Why not? But don't stop there. After you've checked your local internet, if you check the internet in your local area, ask friends, families, or coworkers. Listen, you are worth being well. So unless you're in an abusive situation or somebody that's going to take advantage of you for finding out that you're going to a counselor, I let folks know. I see somebody, and I got a coach. My wife sees somebody. We will see somebody together. It's fine. It's great. It's healthy. It's good. Most of the people I know who do hard things and have hard things in their past need to go do the work. They need to do the work, okay? Let people know. More often than not, somebody will be like, hey, you should go see my person. They're great, okay? Also, if you live in a community with a local university, call and find out. In West Texas, where I just was, the local university, there was a counseling program, an addiction counseling program, a marriage and family therapy program, a psychology program. The medical school has a counseling program. All of them have things called clinics. The clinics are where graduate students see clients for free or for very, very reduced rates. And before you go, I'm not seeing no student. I was a student. That's where I saw clients. And so my colleagues were great. It's a great place to go. And if you go see a graduate student, you're getting the benefit of not only the graduate student, but of often 1 or 2 professors. So people with extensive experience. And so sometimes you get a benefit of 2 or 3 therapists for the price of a quarter of one, right? It can be an amazing resource. So if you live in a local community, check out the clinics of the mental health programs at the local university. It's a great way to get in and see somebody. And you can also provide feedback. It's just awesome. There's also local family counseling services that are designed for folks who have no money or very, very little money. It's where I did one of my internships, my practicums, and I loved it. There's a great place to meet folks all over the spectrum who are struggling with things, and also people who had plenty of money that I got to help. So check out local family counseling services or counseling resources in your area as well. And then also there's church services. I do have a bias, and so this is just me. There are good, well-meaning ministers that are not trained that will often talk to folks. And unfortunately, I've had a career of people coming to me and being like, hey, man, I went and saw my pastor and they said X and Y and Z. And I just go, oh my gosh, I cannot believe they said that. So I do have a bias against sprinting out that way. I implore you, if you're a pastor or a minister, you have to know when you're over your head. You have to not look at people and say, well, if you just prayed harder. Or Jesus tells you don't be anxious. So that's not helpful. And in fact, that hurts people. Don't be that pastor. Don't be that minister. There's tons of pastoral counselor training that you can go get that will make you incredibly effective. And I hope that everyone who has the courage to sit with somebody who's hurting will go through the proper training there. Okay? So that's basically, here's the other one. Call BetterHelp, man. Call online service. They will get you in within 24, 48 hours if you're just stuck. Again, it's not often, you're not going to do this forever and ever and ever. Amen. But man, it can be a great resource when you finally get the courage up to say, okay, I'm going. Last thing I want to pass along here. Go 3 to 4 times before you decide to switch a therapist, okay? The first time should be a nervous vomit session. You get it all out. This happened and this happened and this happened. And there's a thing that you're like, I don't want to say it. And you say it or you don't say it. That's the first session. The second one is awkward. It's a second date. You're going back. You feel a little bit better because you finally spoke out loud some of this crap that you've been carrying around. You finally said, my husband sucks and I don't know what to do. I'm sick of my kids not liking me. That's the foreword to the book. You haven't even started the book yet. The work comes, so what are we going to do now? Okay. Second session is usually context. Tell me how you grew up. Tell me about your past. Tell me how long you've been married. How did you meet? Why? All that kind of digging into stuff. It's uncomfortable. Doesn't feel like you're getting anywhere. You're building relationship with the counselor. You're practicing saying your needs out loud. You're practicing telling the truth out loud. Session 3 is when things get hard, usually. That's when you start getting more homework assignments. You may get like a timeline assignment or something like that, like put in the timeline here, or I want you to write down your list. You might get some of that stuff in the first couple of sessions. Session 3, session 4 is when you start doing the work. We're going to learn some breathing exercises because we got to talk about some hard stuff. We are going to practice going to the gym 3 times, whatever the thing might be that you and your therapist are working through. Go 3 or 4 times before you bail. And if you've never been before, expect it to be uncomfortable. Having surgery to get your knees fixed is uncomfortable. Getting shots when you're sick is uncomfortable. Healing is often uncomfortable. And when it comes to feelings and emotions, you just got to power through. It's not going to be comfortable. And that's the point. We do hard work in counseling so that we can breathe at home, so that we can have peace in our souls, peace in our living rooms, peace in our bedrooms, peace. It's hard. It's hard work. Talking about somebody hurting you and you're still married to them. Talking about how you let your kids down. It's hard. Talking about how your parents let you down and you still got to see them every Christmas, or you think you do. It's hard. It's hard. How your body failed you and you got sick. How you feel like your wife failed you because she got cancer. Like all those things. It's hard. Expect it to be challenging. Okay? Expect it to not, quote unquote, feel good all the time. In the new modern era, expect your counselor to challenge you. If your counselor, I've left counselors and psychologists before because they weren't challenging me. They just kept saying, how does that make you feel? My counselor now, she challenges me. Pushes buttons. And I need that. I love that. And that's a new wave of therapy. And I'm so grateful that it's made its way into counseling rooms all across the country. You don't want an abusive person telling you, you can't believe that, and that's bullcrap. But you do need somebody pushing on you and challenging you appropriately, okay? So, that's how to find a therapist. How to find a therapist. Listen, if you need somebody, call. I don't care how tough you are. I don't care what your job is. I don't care if you've been before and you got burned. Call. You are worth being well. So is your family. I love you guys. We'll be right back. Hey, Delony here. One of the things I love about my job is answering the tough questions people have when they call into the show. Your stories are incredible, and each person's situation is unique. And for years, people from all over the world have been asking if I do private counseling or private coaching sessions for them or for their spouse. And as much as I'd love to, I can't realistically do one-on-one coaching sessions with every single person. It's just not possible. But that's exactly why I wrote my new book, Own Your Past, Change Your Future.
Within the pages of this book is exactly what I would say if you and I were sitting down together at a table looking for the next right move for you to make in your relationships or to help you live a more whole and peaceful life. As you read through each section of this book, I will show you how to look and own the roads from your past and head to the new roads of a well life moving forward. Go to johndelony.com to get your copy today. That's Own Your Past, Change Your Future at johndelony.com.
All right, we're back. Hey, as we wrap up today's show, we're going to do something a little bit different. No song lyrics. We will have some song lyrics, and they'll probably have horse noises in them, so everybody just take a chill. But in light of that last segment, talking about how to find a therapist, we reached out to some folks who have used BetterHelp. BetterHelp sponsors the heck out of this show. They've been a great partner, and I just continue to hear great things about folks who reach out and talk to them. But I wanted to talk to some of you who've actually used BetterHelp, okay, who've actually reached out and used them. I don't want to be recommending a product that people are coming out and being like, this is awful. And so we put a lot of time and effort in making sure that these folks are good. So the people that you're going to hear from are not paid. We didn't pay them a dime, okay? And not only are they not making anything, they're being pretty vulnerable. They're getting in front of at least 20 or 30 people. That's all that listen to this podcast. Only a few people, but they're talking about their experiences. So I want you to check them out and let them just plant a seed of courage in the middle of your chest. If it's time to call somebody, BetterHelp's a great place to start. All right, here we go. Roll tape, Ben. Roll tape.
The past 2 years has been a lot for everyone across the globe, and it's been a lot for me personally.
So I decided to use BetterHelp for therapy because I was entering a new season of my life.
I have been on BetterHelp for about 2 weeks now.
So I've experienced job loss, moving across the country when I was 9 months pregnant, becoming a first-time parent to my beautiful daughter, learning how to make new friends in the midst of the isolation of the pandemic, and losing my cousin due to mental illness.
New relationship, we were talking about our future together, new promotion at work, a bunch of new stress in my life, both good and bad, that I was working through and trying to make sure that I'm using every tool in the toolbox that I possibly could.
It was a lot. And so I decided to take up Dr. John Delony's recommendation to use BetterHelp using his promo code. And I was matched with counselors who were able to talk me through my feelings and what had recently happened.
My therapist and I, we communicate in many different ways. We have a chat session that we can go back and forth. If I have a story that is going to be a little too long for texting, I can record myself and send it to her as an audio file. And we also have live sessions. It
was a great experience. My therapist that I was matched with, she helped me identify how different traumas and experiences in my life were affecting the way I react to things now. She helped me with strategies on how to approach situations at work better, how not to take work home with me, how to approach conversations with my partner better. I've had a really great experience with her. We have communicated on all these different topics, such as parenthood, marriage, even just some conversations regarding boundaries with my family that I grew up with.
We talked about my marriage, my mental health, setting healthier boundaries, how I can make new friends, what I should say yes and no to. It was a great experience.
You know, as somebody who's dealt with anxiety his entire life, it was by far the best counseling experience I've ever had. I can't recommend it enough, and especially as you enter different seasons of your life, I think it's a great opportunity to make sure you're using all the tools you possibly can. I highly encourage everyone to check it out. I think it's been very enriching for myself, and I think it could be for you all too.
I would recommend it to all of my family and friends to give it a try, and I'd highly recommend it to you.